Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States period. The time we think of when we think of samurai. A time of self-sacrifice, bravery, treachery, and betrayal. A time when the fate of great clans could turn in a day, and peasants could rise up to become regent of all Japan. A time filled with personalities like Miyamoto Musashi, Oda Nobunaga, Hattori Hanzo, and of course, Tokugawa Ieyasu. Names that live on in our culture even today. It's one of the most seminal periods in Japanese history, and it'll be the topic of our next few videos. In 1467, a few decades before Columbus stumbled onto the shores of the Bahamas, and 15 years after the light of Rome was extinguished for the last time at the fall of Constantinople, Japan erupted into a great civil war. This war, the Onin War, rocked all of Japan. It started as a dynastic dispute between two great clans, the Hosokawa and the Yamana, but it soon spiraled out of their control, devastating both of these clans and shattering any semblance of unity within Japan. As central authority collapsed, regional warlords called daimyo fought to assert their power over whatever portion of the country they could grab, fracturing Japan into 100 feuding fiefdoms and plunging the whole country into chaos and 100 years of ceaseless war. But we're going to pick up the story in the province of Mikawa, the home of the Matsudaira, in 1548. This province and this whole region is central to our story, because Kyoto, the capital of Japan at the time, and traditionally the home of the emperor and the shogun, is just a short distance away, and whoever controls the shogun, at least in theory, controls Japan. But in Mikawa, the Matsudaira are surrounded by two larger, much more powerful clans, the Oda to the west, and the Imigawa to the east. It was just a matter of time until one of these larger clans attacked the Matsudaira, looking to claim their territory in this age of might makes right. 1548 is that year. The Oda forces start marching into Matsudaira territory. The defenses collapse. Without help, the Matsudaira are clearly lost, so the head of the Matsudaira clan turns to the Imigawa. He asks them for an alliance, for help to defend his lands, but an alliance won't come without a price. The Imigawa clan offer to help on the condition that he send them his eldest son as a hostage. Having little other choice, the head of the Matsudaira family agrees. But as his retainers are taking his son to the Imigawa territory, they're ambushed. Somebody tipped off the Oda. The boy is kidnapped and spirited away to Oda lands. The Oda write to the Matsudaira and tell them that if they don't turn traitor and end their alliance with the Imigawa, they'll kill the boy. And here's where the head of the Matsudaira pulls one of the most brilliant maneuvers of the Sengoku Jidai. Now, I don't know if he did it as a brilliant stratagem or if he was just doing it out of stoic samurai bravado, but still, brilliant. He writes back and says to them something roughly like, "Kill my son. In doing so, you will show the Imigawa just how committed to our alliance I am." What a catch-22. Don't kill my son? I win. Kill my son? I win more. And boy does it work. The Oda don't kill the boy. In fact, they have no idea what to do with him now. So he just sits around at a local temple for several years. Thus, in a world where hostages are slaughtered left and right, this boy is left unharmed until, at last, an opportunity comes for the Oda to get what little use out of him they can. The old head of the Oda has died, and the Oda forces are in a bit of disarray. The Imigawa see their opportunity and put to siege the castle that houses the new head of the Oda clan while he's relatively undefended. Then they offer the Oda a deal. "We'll let you live if you hand over the castle we're sieging and give us back the Matsudaira boy you stole from us years ago." The Oda jump at the deal because, hey, good riddance. The head of the Matsudaira clan has also just recently died, making this boy, in name at least, the new head of the clan. The Imigawa see having him as a hostage as a good way of assuring that the Matsudaira will remain on their side, and with any luck, they can raise him to be a staunch ally of the Imigawa by the time he returns home at the age of 15. In 1556, the boy is now officially a man by the standards of the time, and he returns to Mikawa to rule the province in his own right. The alliance with the Imigawa is going well. The Oda are feeling the pressure of the combined forces of the Matsudaira and the Imigawa, and now it is time for this teenage daimyo to take up the sword himself and lead the Matsudaira forces. His capacity for war is quickly confirmed as he storms through Oda lands, reducing the hill forts along the border. But even as his armies are raising the Matsudaira flag over these fortified hills, the Imigawa forces are doing even better, cutting deep swaths into the Oda lands. The end is near. The Imigawa forces are going to march on to the final great Oda castle, destroy their last major rival, and sweep on to take Kyoto, with the loyal Matsudaira at their side. The Imigawa forces are resting in a gorge, partying, celebrating, and regathering their strength for the final siege of this castle. The Matsudaira forces are camped a bit further off at one of the border forts they've recently taken. Meanwhile, the last of the Oda forces are in their castle. They are preparing for one last desperate defense, but their leader, the 26-year-old Oda Nobunaga, has other plans. His advisors counsel him to hide in the castle, or perhaps to surrender without a fight. But he turns to them and he says, "Do you really want to spend your entire lives praying for longevity? We were born in order to die. Whoever's with me, come to the battlefield tomorrow morning. Whoever's not, just stay wherever you are and watch me win it." He knows that all defending the castle will do is buy him maybe a few more days, but he has no interest in losing more slowly. He'd rather take the 1,000-to-1 shot at victory. So he gathers up the few hundred men he has in his castle and begins riding toward the Imagawa force, an army that numbers in the tens of thousands. He rallies men to his banner as he winds through the countryside, mustering a force of about 2,500 souls not afraid to die on this suicide charge he's proposing. But his information network is still good, and he knows that the Imagawa forces are resting in a gorge. What's more, it's a gorge he knows well from when he was a boy. He has a plan. It may be a desperate one, perhaps even a foolhardy one, but it is a plan. He has no intention of charging onto the spears of his enemies just to die with glory. When they near the gorge where his enemies are resting, Oda Nobunaga does something that seems like madness with his force of 2,500 facing up against an army of 25,000. He splits up his men. But he's playing to win here, and he knows that he's only got one shot, so he sends a division of 500 men up to a fortified temple on a nearby hill. These 500 men are not there to fight, but rather to create a decoy army. They take flags and banners and litter them atop the hill so that the men in the gorge think that Nobunaga's entire force has taken up a defensive position there. Hardly a threat for them to worry about. After all, it's just one more hill fort to take. But Oda Nobunaga has another plan. He knows how to sneak around the gorge and enter it from a place the Imagawa will never suspect. As he begins to lead his forces around their stealthy path, a storm rolls in. The rain begins to pour. The clouds and the water whipping through the wind mask his approach. No one in the gorge sees them until it's too late. The men in the gorge have been drinking. Some are in tents. Many have dispersed to find shelter from the rain. And then, just as the clouds part and the rain stops, Oda Nobunaga's men come charging into the valley. It's mayhem. It's a slaughter. The unprepared and drunken men scatter or fall where they stand. The attack is so sudden that the lord of the Imagawa doesn't even realize it's an attack. He thinks it's just a ruckus caused by the peasants in his army, so he doesn't move from the play he's watching until a soldier bursts into his tent. At first he thinks it's one of his men, but the soldier thrusts a spear at him. He whips out his katana at the last moment and slices the spear in two, but too late. Another man rushes in and lops off his head. With that, with such surprise and such panic, with the complete loss of their leadership, the Imagawa army evaporates. Thousands are cut down as they flee. Thousands more just quietly return to their farms back in the Imagawa lands. But this force was everything. The Imagawa thought they were going all the way to Kyoto with this army, so they brought everything they had. The weakened Imagawa are now just carrion for their hungry neighbors. All of those clans around them descend on their land and carve it up between them. Even one of their former allies. The young leader of the Matsudaira understood which way the wind was blowing. As he watched the routing Imagawa forces stream past his captured hill fort, he decided that it was time to meet with the young lord of the Oda. Oda Nobunaga, perhaps due to his own lack of forces, or perhaps due to the Matsudaira boy's nearly mythical ability to dodge death, agreed to work with him rather than slaughter his forces outright, as was often done to the losing side during the Sengoku Jidai. The young Matsudaira leader agreed to be not perhaps a vassal, but more a junior partner in wherever Nobunaga's adventures may lead him. This young man who will one day be known far and wide, Tokugawa Ieyasu.